Okay, let's talk about the $1 bill. I mean, have you really ever looked at one? We're about to dive into a theory that claims this piece of paper we see all the time actually holds a hidden code. And get this, it supposedly connects directly to an ancient biblical prophecy about the end of the world. I know, it sounds a little wild, right? But the theory we're looking at today takes this idea very seriously. The whole premise is that the key to unlocking a mystery that's thousands of years old is hiding in plain sight, right there in your wallet. And this is the verse that's supposedly the code itself. It comes from the book of Revelation, and it's pretty cryptic. You've got a woman, a great eagle, and this very strange phrase about time. So yeah, this verse is the absolute foundation for this entire idea. Let's start unpacking this ancient riddle and see how the author of this theory claims to have figured it all out. Okay, so the theory starts by setting the stage with some key symbols. The woman mentioned in the prophecy, that's not a real person, but a symbol for the early Christian church. And the dragon that's chasing her, well, that's meant to be the Roman Empire, which, as we know, was persecuting them. Now, for any of this to work, you need a starting point, right? A moment when the prophetic clock starts ticking. The author of this theory pinpoints it to the year 81 AD. Why then? Because that's when the Roman Emperor Domitian really ramped up his persecution of Christians. You gotta remember this date, 81 AD, because it's the anchor for all the math that's about to come.
All right, so now we get to the really interesting part, the code cracking. This is where the theory gets deep into numerology. How in the world do you take a phrase like a time, times, and half a time and turn it into an actual usable number?
This is it. This is the central claim, the key that supposedly unlocks the whole thing. The theory argues that when the Bible says a time in this context, it doesn't just mean 1 year, it's a specific block of time. By looking at other prophecies, specifically about how long the Israelites were in Egypt, the author calculates that one prophetic time is exactly 430 years. Big number, and it's super important. So let's break down how that phrase gets calculated. You have a time. That's our base number, 430 years. Then you have times, plural. The author interprets this as 3 times, so that's another 1,290 years. And finally, half a time. Well, that's easy enough. It's just half of 430, which gives us 215 years. Okay, so you add all of those up, the 430, the 1290, and the 215, and what do you get? A grand total of 1,935 years. Now, remember our starting date, 81 AD. So what happens when you add 1,935 years to 81 AD? You land on a very specific, very modern year, 2016. That's the result of the calculation. According to this theory, 2016 is the year this ancient prophecy finally unlocks.
So, okay, we've got a year, 2016. But what does that have to do with America or a dollar bill? Well, this is where the theory brings it all together, connecting that ancient text right back to the symbols on our money. To make that connection, the author draws this big historical parallel. They argue that Europe, with all its religious persecution, became like a new Egypt for believers. And America became the wilderness from the prophecy, a new land, a place of safety and refuge for people fleeing that persecution. And hey, let's go back to that original verse for a second. It says, "The woman was given the wings of a great eagle to fly to the wilderness." Now, what nation do we all know that has a great eagle as its main symbol? You guessed it. The theory makes a direct one-to-one connection here. The claim is that the eagle in Revelation is the American eagle. It's the symbol that America was this prophesied safe haven, the wilderness where people could escape to. Okay, now this is where it gets really wild. The author doesn't just stop there. They present a second calculation, one that's completely separate from the Bible. This one comes from the Great Seal on the dollar bill itself. They start with 1776, the year at the base of the pyramid. Then they take the 12 layers of the pyramid, say they represent the 12 disciples, and give each layer a value of 20 years. That adds up to 240 years. So, what happens when you add those 240 years to the base of 1776? You get 2016, the exact same year. So you have 2 totally different paths, one from ancient biblical numerology and one from the design of the dollar bill. And according to this theory, they both point to 2016. This is what the author presents as the core proof, the heart of the whole mystery. So if 2016 was the big year, the moment the prophecy unlocked, then what? What happens next? Well, the author doesn't stop there. They lay out a very specific timeline of events that they predict will follow.
It all kicks off in 2016 with something called Daniel's Final Week of Years, which is a 7-year period based on another prophecy. That takes us to 2023. After that, the prediction is the start of a living temple. And just to be clear, they don't mean a physical building. They mean a community of believers. And all of this whole sequence, is supposedly leading up to a prophesied second coming in the year 2034.
And just to bolster that final date of 2034, the author pulls out yet another calculation. This time, they define a biblical generation as 120 years. They start the clock for that generation in 1914, with the start of World War I. You add 120 years to 1914, and yep, you land on 2034 again. So we've got the what and the when, this whole detailed timeline. But the theory also gets into the why. What's the point of all this? What's the ultimate purpose behind this incredible, centuries-long prophecy? And this is where we get to the author's biggest claim, their ultimate thesis. It's a theory about identity, and it's one that tries to reframe the history of, well, over 1 billion people on the planet. So here it is, the grand theory that ties it all together. The claim is that Christians today are the literal genetic descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel, the ones who were scattered thousands of years ago. And the entire point of this whole prophetic timeline, everything from the dragon in Rome to the eagle in America, was to set the stage for one massive final event, a great gathering of all these lost sheep, bringing over 1 billion descendants back to Israel. The author frames this whole predicted event as the ultimate fulfillment of the parable of the prodigal son. You know the one. It's about a great homecoming for someone who was lost and is finally found. That's the idea here, but on a massive global scale.
I mean, it is a really complex, intricate web, right? You've got numerology, symbolism, prophecy, all woven together. Now, whether you look at all this and see a divine code that's finally been unlocked, or you just see a really fascinating pattern of coincidences, you got to admit the theory is pretty compelling. So I guess the real question is, the next time you pull a dollar bill out of your pocket, will you ever look at it the same way again?